Running Aces Casino and Racetrack is the Twin Cities' premier choice for exciting entertainment, 24/7 gaming and dining, monthly comedy shows, and $1 blackjack with no commission or ante, making it the most player-friendly casino around. Trout Air Tavern at Running Aces offers Minnesota-inspired handcrafted dishes with locally sourced ingredients and the trout that made the area famous. Running Aces Casino and Racetrack, 25 minutes north of downtown. Visit runaces.com. Running Aces, your night out is waiting. TCL is a proud sponsor of the 1500 ESPN studios. TCL, America's fastest growing TV brand.
This is information not being reported by anyone else. You want the scoop? Here it is with Darren Doogie Wolfson.
Gobble, gobble, time to step on the throttle to get through yet another Scoop podcast. It is Scoop Podcast episode 186. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I'm incredibly grateful. I am incredibly thankful for you choosing this particular podcast when you've got so many options available. We'll put a heavy emphasis on the Twins' John Morrissey of MLB Network of MLB.com reporting on Tuesday late afternoon that the Twins have talked to the Diamondbacks about Paul Goldschmidt. It would fall in line with what I brought up with Judd Zolgad on 1500 ESPN on his afternoon drive show at about 3:15 on Tuesday afternoon. But certainly Morrissey deserves credit. He advanced that story. But yes, the Twins have interest in all sorts of trade targets, not just Paul Goldschmidt. So I'll pass along my intel after we talk to one of the all-time great managers, Lou Piniella. I think he belongs in Cooperstown. Lou Piniella is recently back from a European vacation. I'm happy to welcome him on to the Scoop podcast. The main topic will be Rocco Baldelli, but I'll throw a couple other things his way. After Lou, I will replay a conversation that I had with Bobby Marks of ESPN, former Nets assistant general manager. He was great when I filled in for Scott Korzanowski on Saturday morning, breaking down the Jimmy Butler for Robert Covington and Dario Saric trade, plus some other NBA talking points. So we'll go interview, then we'll go with the Twins notes. I got some Wolves notes, some teams showing some trade interest in Anthony Tolliver and a few other things. So lots to get to, but let's start with Lou Piniella. The Scoop podcast is brought to you by MyBookie, MyBookie.com. Hopefully you bet the over in the Rams-Chiefs game from Monday night, that historic game. It went way over the 68 number, and 68 for any NFL game on an over-under total is ridiculously high, and this one annihilated the over-under. MyBookie, MyBookie.com. I'll tell you more about MyBookie, some of the great offers that you can jump on later on in this podcast, plus Fair State Brewing. Fair State Brewing Cooperative. I have a hunch that you might need to bring an adult beverage or two to your Thanksgiving gathering. Swing by your local liquor store or the tap room in Northeast Minneapolis at Central and Lowry. Fair State Brewing. Fair State Brewing Cooperative Mirror Universe is a fantastic beer. I highly recommend it. And guess what? If you're not supposed to bring an adult beverage, think about bringing an adult beverage. You can't just show up to some Thanksgiving gathering and not have something in hand. So even if you've been told, hey, don't bring anything, bring something. Bring some Fair State Brewing beer. It is a rock-solid beer. All right, let's get to Lou Piniella. Sweet Lou. Lou, let's just start with your general thoughts, your general reaction when you first heard the news that your former player, Rocco Baldelli, got the job here in Minnesota. He is now the manager of the Minnesota Twins.
Well, I was thrilled to death. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for him, and I think it's a wonderful hire for the Minnesota Twins organization. You know, Rocco is a really good young man. I had him when he was a rookie in Tampa Bay, and I'll tell you what, a talented player. And I'm not surprised that he got a major league managing job, because even as a young player, he commanded respect and he had leadership qualities in that clubhouse. So I think it was a really good hire by the Twins, and it's a wonderful opportunity for Rocco, and I'm so happy for him.
I mean, not even surprised that he got it at such a young age. I mean, he's only, 37 years old?
Well, you know, managers are getting younger and younger.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, they really are. But, no, I won't tell you what, he did an outstanding job for the Rays as a first base coach. And, being in a small market like Tampa Bay bodes very well for moving over and managing a small market team like the Twins. So, and I think he learned a lot from Cash, and at the same time, listen, I know his family, and this guy here is a good timber, and at the same time, he's always been a student of the game. And no, it doesn't surprise me. He probably interviewed very, very well. You know, he's an astute guy. He's intelligent. So I think he'll do an outstanding job for the Twins, put it that way.
Lou, do you and Rocco still stay in touch pretty regularly?
I haven't talked to him for a while. No, I really haven't. I go to the games once in a while here in Tampa Bay, but I don't go down in the clubhouse or on the field. I just sit and watch as a fan. But when I first managed in Tampa Bay, we had a very, very small payroll in the low 20s, and we just couldn't compete really in the American League East with the Yankees and Boston and the rest of these teams. But I remember when I took the job there, I had 3 young outfielders that were outstanding. Carl Crawford in left field, Rocco, my center fielder, and then another kid, Josh Hamilton. But he had some problems with drugs, which was a shame. But he went on to be a great major league player, too. And Rocco was just an outstanding center fielder and a really, really good hitter, had a really quick bat. And his career got cut short because of the illness that he had or the problems that he had physically, which was really a shame. But I'll tell you what a good player. And came to the ballpark every day with a good disposition and came to play and came to win. I really liked him. I remember him calling him into my office early in spring training, he and Crawford and Hamilton, and telling them, oh, listen, you all don't have to make this team. You guys are going to be my outfielders. And Rocco was my opening day center fielder, hit third in the lineup, and did a really, really good job. But you could tell that he loved the game of baseball, that he was interested in the history of the game. So it doesn't surprise me that he went into coaching, and it doesn't surprise me that he got this job. No, it really doesn't.
Do you recall calling him into your office in 2004? So, I mean, he makes your roster as, a 21-year-old in 2003. But then 2004, he gets off to a slow start. He told this story at his introductory press conference, or maybe it was right after in a smaller setting than the big room. But he brought up the point that you called him into your office early in 2004. So he gets off to a slow start. He's hitting 120 or something like that. And you call him into your office, and he thought he was being sent down to the minors. And lo and behold, you brought him in just to pep him up.
Pump him up a little bit.
Yeah, pump him up a little bit.
Yeah, why not? Look, I recognize his talent. And I recognize that this guy was going to be just an outstanding major league player. And, the second year for a young player is a hard one. That's why they call it the sophomore slump a little bit. You had an outstanding rookie season, and, the league adjusted to him a little bit, throwing him more sliders and so forth. And I told him, I said, look, just readjust to him. Handle the ball on the outside of the plate, and you're going to be just fine, young man. I said, you've got loads of talent. We got nothing but confidence for you. I think he appreciated it. I really do. And he went on to have good seasons for me, And but he had this. I don't remember exactly what the physical problem was, but it was a rare thing, and it sort of shortened his career because let me tell you, this guy here was quick. He had an outstanding throwing arm. He could play center field, not as good as Ken Griffey Jr., but certainly could play very, very well. And he had some power. He had some quickness with the bat. And I know that he respected the game. But that always impressed me about him. He had tremendous respect for the game. I got a chance to meet his parents. They're wonderful people. And I couldn't be happier for Rocco. I really can't. I couldn't. I was in Europe when he was hired. We're traveling with my young son and my wife and my son's wife, and I was thrilled to death. We were in Paris, France, and I was thrilled to see that he got the job, and I just wish him nothing but the best. I really mean that. I wish him nothing but the best, and I think he's gonna be a fine major league manager. I really do. I think he will handle the media well. He'll command respect in that clubhouse, and I think that the players will really enjoy playing for him because he's certainly probably a lot more patient than I was.
So you were in Paris when you found out the news. Did you just look at it on your phone? Did somebody tell you? Did somebody reach out to you?
I got a call from a nice writer there in Minnesota. I saw it on CNN Europe.
Okay, yeah.
But I got a call, and I didn't even take my cell phone with me.
Good for you.
Yeah, I figured let me just go there and relax for a couple of weeks. But when I got back, I saw where somebody from Scoggins.
Yeah, Chip Scoggins. Yeah, Chip is a great guy. Yeah, good buddy.
Nice
yeah,
guy. Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him about this because I was gone and I didn't have my phone in Europe. But I saw it when I got back. But by that time, it was already 2 weeks later.
Now,
This is a wonderful opportunity for Rocco, really, and I know that the players here in Tampa Bay really liked him. I know that the organization was thrilled about him, and I'm sure that they were sorry to see him go. But this is an opportunity that he had to take, and the Twins, the Twins have always been considered a small market team. And with the experience he got in Tampa Bay, it's gonna bode very well for him there.
Did you have any interaction with any members of the Twins front office? I mean, they're incredibly diligent. Derek Falvey, Thad Levine and company. Did they pick your brain about Rocco?
No, I really didn't. I haven't, no. But let me tell you what, I'm sure that they did their homework on this young man. And from what I understand, his interview blew him away. And I'm not surprised because this guy's a smart kid. I mean, he really is. He's a smart kid, and like I say, he's well liked, and he respects the game. Those are all important things in being a manager. And he knows the game of baseball. He really does. As a young player, you could tell that he knew how to play the game. And I thought myself that this guy here was going to be just have an outstanding long career at the big leagues, and it got curtailed by the what was the problem that he had? I don't remember.
Yeah, I forget the exact health issue. It did come up when he was introduced. He said that he gets regular sleep. His diet is different. His day-to-day, everything he does is different. But no. I mean, it came up. I mean, it had to come up in the interview process. I mean, the Twins had to ask him about it, but and it came up, with us in the media. But he said it's under control. It won't be an issue. I forget exactly what the specific thing that ails him, but you're right. I mean, it's been something that he's had to deal with for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, Lou, you said, being a manager, everything that goes into being a manager, today. How does it compare to, your heyday? How has managing a baseball team changed over the years?
It really is. It's totally different. And, they use the analytics a lot more. Although towards the end of my career, I started using it myself. But, yeah, they rely on the analytics a lot more than today. And I think the front office probably, especially with younger managers, they have a lot to say on what goes on the field. And there's a lot of bright guys, and not only in the Twins organization, but other organizations in the front office. And they do their work when they hire these guys. And I'm sure that Rocco blew him away. When he was interviewed. And not only that, but let me tell you, I honestly feel this guy's going to be just an outstanding major league manager.
All right, Lou, I would be remiss while I have you on the phone. Can I hit you with a couple other baseball topics while I have you?
Go on. I'm going to dinner with my wife, but yeah.
All right, Joe Mauer. Joe Mauer recently announced his retirement. You certainly competed against Joe. What comes to mind when I bring up Joe Mauer's name?
A professional hitter. Just a professional hitter. Long career, very productive. He played the game the old-fashioned way. Didn't just try to pull the ball. He used the whole field to hit with. Tough out. Put the ball in play. I had tremendous respect for Joe. I mean, this guy here I remember when I was with Gillick over there in Seattle, he told me, boy, this guy here is really going to be good. And Pat's a really good judge of talent. And he did. He had an outstanding career, and 15 years or so with the Twins, right? One organization.
15 years, yeah. I mean, he was the number one overall pick. I mean, all sorts of giant expectations. And in my mind, I mean, not only did he meet those expectations, he exceeded those expectations.
I agree with you totally. You know what? Well respected. You didn't see any problems with him in any shape or form. Baseball lost a good ambassador and a good player.
Are you fully retired now, Lou? You're 75, right? Are you fully retired, and how are you doing health-wise?
Health-wise, I had a little TIA stroke last summer, but I'm doing fine. I really am. God's been good to me and my family, and I had a long career as a player and as a manager, and I'm retired now, and I play a little golf and do a little fishing and enjoy my family.
I'll leave you after this one, Lou, and then you can get to dinner with your wife. Do you think much about the Hall of Fame? You're on this, today's game era?
I'm on the ballot,
yeah. Yeah, you're on the ballot. I mean, we'll find out here in a couple weeks whether you make it. Do you think about it much?
Yes, sir. I'm honored that I'm on the ballot and that I'm going to be considered, and I hope that I get the necessary votes. But it's good to be recognized at that level, and I'm hoping things come out my way. We'll let other people make that decision.
Well, hopefully a lot of people make the right decision, Lou. Best of luck with everything, and happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Thank you so much.
1990 World Series champion with the Cincinnati Reds, 3 times Manager of the Year. He managed for 23 years. He is top 20 all-time in wins. That was Lou Piniella. Unfortunately, I couldn't hit him with 3 more topics I wanted to get to him with. Edgar Martinez, final year on the Hall of Fame ballot, his guy in Seattle. I wanted to talk a little Ken Griffey Jr., Randy Johnson. He managed so many good players over the years. I'm curious if Griffey Jr. is the obvious answer to the best player that he's ever managed. We will connect again with Lou sometime closer to the baseball season, but I'm glad I was able to get him on the phone for a few minutes, mostly on his pupil, Rocco Baldelli. We'll get to Bobby Marks of ESPN in just a second. Let me give some love to MyBookie, mybookie.com. Remember, who you're betting on is just as important as who you are betting with. That's why I always tell listeners of this podcast to bet with MyBookie. Trust me, guys, they are the best bet this season. And gals, I hope there's some gals that listen to the podcast. They've been in business for years. They have great reviews online. Just Google MyBookie. You'll see all the great reviews. Their mobile site is easy to use. I would only recommend a service to listeners of this podcast that has been good to me. MyBookie is slammed with new bettors, so you know they're doing well. So they want to give everyone the best service possible. So if you're willing to deposit after 6 p.m. Central Time, they will give you an additional $25 free play on deposits over $100. Use the promo code SCOOP to activate the offer. Also, if you join now, MyBookie will match your deposit dollar for dollar. It is MyBookie, MyBookie.com, MyBookie.com. Don't forget to use the promo code SCOOP. You play, you win, you get paid. They have in-game live betting, over-unders on fantasy points scored, and the most rewarding player perks in the business. It is MyBookie, MyBookie.com. A reminder, you play, you win, you get paid.
Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.
All right, here is Bobby Marks analyzing the Jimmy Butler trade. Do you view it as a good deal for both teams? I mean, so far, it looks okay. Jimmy was phenomenal last night in Philadelphia's win over Utah, and the Wolves are 3-0 since moving Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I mean, I think, based on the circumstances, which, certainly been well documented over the last couple months, compared to what was offered, either from Houston, maybe we can pick apart what Miami had put on the table if it was Josh Richardson. But I think, as the, days go by, you kind of lose a little bit of leverage. And I am a big fan of Robert Covington and Dario Saric. I didn't think you were going to get, an all-star out of, in Jimmy Butler trade just based on, the leverage that you have. And I think kind of the way the world has kind of been lifted off the shoulders of, Tom Thibodeau and that organization. And you see it in that 3-0 record right now where guys are kind of just playing freely and it balances your roster out a little bit. You've got, with Andrew at the 2 and Covington at the 3, and you can have Sarge either come off the bench or start for you. So I like the trade. I thought both teams, that it's kind of what both teams needed. I think after a week ago when we watched that debacle in Sacramento with Minnesota, and then you saw Philly blow a 20-point lead at home to Charlotte. They were missing a closer, and you get that with Jimmy Butler. And Minnesota was just looking to try to get some closure here, and they achieved that.
Bobby, on your comment about a weight being lifted, in all your time working for the Nets, did you guys ever move on from a player where you could see with the team that, quote unquote, a weight was lifted? Because I'm not quite sure how to quantify that. But yeah, just watching the Wolves, watching Karl Anthony Towns smile more than I've seen him smile in a long time this week, with the Wolves going 3-0 without Jimmy, 2-0 with the new guys. I mean, heck, they played really well on Wednesday against a decent New Orleans team. They blew out a good Portland team last night. I mean, they beat them by 16. It does seem like that a weight has been lifted.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the closest would probably be when we moved with Jason Kidd in 2008, just because it's a very similar situation. Jason missed a game with a so-called migraine. We had hit a peak where we've, basically that run ended about, 6 years in, and he wanted to be traded to a team where he can win a championship. And, we moved him to Dallas and wound up getting Devin Harris back, and it did give us a boost, in the short term. I think a lot of it will depend on now how it's similar to when a coach gets fired. Usually you get that, 2-game boost, kind of rejuvenates the franchise. It's just a matter of, can you sustain it? Can you sustain it long term? And yeah, I mean, I think the Portland win last night and how they went about doing it, says a lot about the organization. I think that, I don't know how much you can take out of the Brooklyn win with LeVert being out, getting hurt, and then Jared Allen not playing. The win during the week, certainly against a New Orleans team with Anthony Davis, certainly helps. But I thought last night was kind of a signature win. And the hard part is, trying to make up some ground from, the past month in that Western Conference, which is certainly as a bear to get through. Yeah,
I mean, even with the 3-game winning streak, now it's tightly contested, but the Wolves are still only in 13th place, Bobby, in the Western Conference. So 7-9 overall, 13th place, even after 5 consecutive home wins and the 3 wins this week. So you're right. I mean, speak on that, how competitive the Western Conference is, how tough. The hole that they are currently in will be tough to dig out of.
Well, that's the key. And I was talking with a GM from a Western Conference team yesterday, and we were just talking about the standings, and I said to him, like, you can't, if you go through a stretch where you're losing 3 or 4 games in a row, it will bury you. It's basically, you just kind of got to keep your head above water, and hopefully you can run off a certain amount of games. I think there is a little bit more. Less, I would say less separation maybe this year based on where Golden State is, and then you've got a lot of teams in that 10-5 range, 9-6. Some teams right around 500. But when you look at what the Lakers are doing and what Denver is doing, 2 teams that did not make the playoffs here, and then you're looking like, well, who are the 2 teams that are going to be out? And that's going to be the hard part if both those teams are likely going to be in the playoffs.
How do you view Saric long-term? I mean, eventually the Wolves need to make a decision on a long-term extension for him. Is he the kind of player that you would pay $15, $16 million a year to?
Well, I think that you have almost a 1-year trial basis. He's extension eligible next summer, stretch 4s like him are, hard to find in the league. Young stretch 4s can kind of do a little bit of everything. Hadn't shot the ball great before, before the trade, kind of struggled a little bit in Philadelphia. I think a lot of it has to do with, the cap is going to be rising again. If you're paying a player like Dario Saric, which is probably going to cost you, as you said, probably $14 to $15 million, I think you can justify it because that Gibson contract is going to come off your books this year. Eventually that Jeff Teague contract is going to come off the books. So you need those younger players if you don't have that flexibility to kind of step up. You say that with Tyus Jones and as far as what you do in a draft. So I think it gives you a good 1 year kind of trial basis, almost a tryout to figure out if Dario is long term. But that's the beauty of it when you get a player who's, you've got controllable contracts. With Robert's in year one of that, he's got a couple more years left on that renegotiation that he did last year, and with Dario.
Yeah, and I like Robert. I mean, I don't know if there's still a ceiling there, but even if he has hit his ceiling, I think Covington's a pretty good player.
He is a guy that is probably a sixth man on a Golden State type team, but he is a real good player. He's the rare two-way guy that can kind of play, both ends of the court, and you've got him on a contract that's basically what the mid-level exception is going to be. So yeah, I mean, hey, you're never going to win the trade when you're moving an all-star. I've learned that multiple times, either with, as I said, with Jason Kidd, players like that. But you can get pieces back that can help you, and it's a lot similar to what Toronto did a couple, 5 or 6 years ago when they moved Rudy Gay, and you got Patrick Patterson and Grievous Vasquez, players like that weren't all-star levels, but it helped balance that roster out. It got them into the playoffs eventually, and as I said, kind of a weight was lifted.
Bobby, I saw you tweeting about this last night, Jimmy Butler's postgame comments from Philly late last night. Now, Jimmy was great. I don't have his line score in front of me, but he was like 8 of 12 from the field, had like 28 points. I mean, he willed Philadelphia to a victory last night over Utah. Then postgame, he said, quote, "So much more fun to play with these guys. Everybody wants to win, and when somebody messes up, you talk to them. They don't take it personal, and they do their job." I mean, reading between the lines, Bobby, it sure sounds like a shot at Karl Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, and some others.
I think that's what it was. And, yeah, I agree with you. Hey, Jimmy Butler's a top 15 player. I mean, he is. And I think, he got, when he was traded, he led the league in fourth quarter points. I think that's what was missing in that loss to Orlando. And you saw it last night, how good Jimmy is. But, yeah, it was a shot across the bow, and it's ironic. And I said, yeah, you could probably say a lot of Timberwolves players could probably say the same thing. And my big thing with the Jimmy Butler saga is that I don't want to use the word, but I will. I thought he quit on the players there. I thought he quit on the organization. I really did. I mean, the Sacramento game last Friday night was a embarrassment for a player that's making $20 million to go out there and play like that. And I thought the last 2 months was an embarrassment as far as how he handled things here. And, him or his agent could probably say elsewhere, but for somebody who's been part of the league for over 20 years, I just thought he quit on the team here, and he got his wish. He got out of Minnesota, and both organizations move on. And I wish he hadn't said that, but hey, that's where we are right now in this league.
I mean, he deserves all sorts of criticism. I think the Wolves do, too. I mean, why didn't they fine him, suspend him, Bobby? I mean, he sat out the first 3 weeks of training camp / the preseason, and the Wolves chose not to do anything. The Wolves should have made a statement right then and there.
Well, I think he should really thank, Coach Thibodeau. I mean, because rarely do you have an ally in the situation just because on their relationship in Chicago that, Tom's trying to give him the benefit of the doubt here with what was going on. I mean, I think there's kind of blood all over everyone's hands as far as how everyone handled this situation. I mean, if you go to the fine route or the suspension route, you think internally does that lose leverage as far as from a player? But it did not help. As far as it was a circus atmosphere because you went into each game not knowing if Jimmy Butler was going to play or the next game. It's very hard to game plan for your own self, and I think it's a learning experience that everyone went through. If this ever happens again down the road.
How do you view Derrick Rose? I mean, he's been phenomenal so far this year, the sixth man in the league. I mean, however you want to view it, he's been really good. I mean, heck, he had a 50-point game for Pete's sakes. But he dominates the ball so much. He shoots the ball so much. He's on a 1-year deal, especially if Tom Thibodeau isn't here next year. I don't think Derrick Rose is here next year. Like last night, Josh Okogie, a rookie who I really like, only got in garbage time. He played the final 2 minutes. So it looks like he's out of the rotation, even though that's fluid. He was out of the rotation last night, yet Derrick Rose is going to play a ton of minutes, and he's going to take a ton of shots. So how do you weigh that? If you're a Wolves fan, how do you view Derrick Rose taking all these shots, dominating the ball, but knowing that long-term he's probably not here?
Well, that's the balancing act that you are trying to figure out here, and that it almost goes back to with the Jimmy Butler. Why he wasn't moved right away, because you were trying to win games. And I think how this season plays out, if they do fall out of playoff contention when we get closer to the trade deadline, do some of the younger players get a chance? But yeah, I mean, you paid a lot of money to Karl Anthony Towns. You paid a lot of money to Andrew Wiggins. I don't know if you paid all that money, $148 million for Andrew Wiggins to stand in the corner and watch Derrick Rose dominate the ball. But it's a good story. Hey, it's a guy that's making a minimum that, and honestly, I thought 3 weeks ago that I didn't know if he deserved to be in the league because of how he was playing, and then he goes out and has that 50-point game. So it's a hard thing because it's one of Tibbs' guys, and he is the goal right now for this organization is to try to win games if it's at the sacrifice of maybe some of the younger players.
Do you like Okogie? Have you seen enough of Okogie to think that he should be in the Wolves rotation?
I do. I compare him to a player that they had an opportunity of getting. I think he's a younger version of Josh Richardson down in Miami. I really do. A guy that can kind of, two-way guy that can kind of play both ways. I think he's still a little bit more of a developmental project, but that will come. I mean, the hardest thing is, how do you get these players to get some game experience? Not really just the end of game, playing 3 or 4 minutes in garbage time, but you got to throw them out there and see kind of almost in that sink or swim mode here. But yeah, I do. I mean, wing players is hard to get in the league, either in the trade or free agency, and they've got one that they got in the draft and at a pick that was in the early 20s there.
Yeah, I mean, pick 20. Yeah, I mean, I like him. So my hope is that last night was a mirage, that it's not the trend, that we see Okogie tomorrow against Memphis. We see him moving forward. I'll let you go after this, Bobby. Not just the Wolves. I mean, certainly the Wolves have some trade candidates still as we approach the trade deadline in early February. But how about league-wide? Who are some names that you're keeping an eye on? I guess also from a buyout standpoint. I mean, we just saw Tyson Chandler get bought out of his deal in Phoenix, and he's already making an impact with the Lakers. So how about some names you're keeping an eye on these next couple months from a trade standpoint, from a buyout standpoint?
Well, I mean, I think from buyout standpoint, it's based on where the records are going to go. Chicago certainly has, with Robin Lopez, Justin Holiday, 2 potential buyout guys, or the trade candidates, in Sacramento, if the Kings, kind of flounder and that record goes a little bit south as far as what happens with Zach Randolph here. It's interesting in Golden State as far as the drama out there. I think that will kind of go, not be as big of a deal maybe a month from now. And the interesting thing with Bob Myers, their general manager, is that they've never made an in-season trade when this run started, which is amazing. They've made 5 trades in the last 5 or 6 years, and all of them have been in the off season.
Wow.
Here. So
yeah.
I think with what happens with Melo in Houston, as far as is that the last stop for him? I think that will play out when we get closer to December 15th when his trade restriction is lifted. But I haven't seen the league, and I think Brian Windhorst wrote about it earlier this week, that there was a sense of urgency 2 weeks into November. Usually we go through a period of 20 games. We get to December 1, and then everyone says, all right, this is where our team is. And, certainly with the Jimmy Butler trade, with Chandler being bought out, that it seems like the calendar was pushed up a little bit here.
You think Miami's going to regret not finding a way to finish a Jimmy Butler trade? Although Josh Richardson again last night, I hope you're right, Bobby, that Josh Okogie can eventually turn into Josh Richardson, but Okogie has a long way to go with the jump shot. I mean, Richardson last night made 7 threes. Josh Richardson is one heck of a player.
Well, and now it's the hard thing with Miami. If they would have lost to Richardson, then you replace them with a Butler, and I think it would have made them interesting. I don't know how much better they would have been just because they've got, with Kelly Olynyk and Deion Waiters and James Johnson, Tyler Johnson. I call them, they're kind of like a vanilla team. They've got to play hard every night. to have a chance. And if they don't, they're going to get their doors blown off. And I with Jimmy Butler or without Jimmy Butler, I thought that team was kind of like a 40 to 42 win team.
That was my conversation with Bobby Marks, former Nets assistant GM, ESPN analyst, when I filled in on Saturday morning sports talk. We'll get to notes in just a second. Let me tell you about Fair State Brewing Cooperative. They are the Upper Midwest's first member-owned brewery. They specialize in delicious sours, lagers, and hoppy ales. They recently re-released Mirror Universe. I had Will on Twitter send me a nice pic over the weekend. He was at his local liquor store. He picked up some Mirror Universe. It's a double dry-hopped hazy IPA brewed with wheat, oats, citric mosaic, and El Dorado hops. It was a limited offering in the spring. Now it's available year-round. Look for it at your local bars and liquor stores just like Will, or swing by the tap room in Northeast Minneapolis at Lowry and Central. Think about Fair State Brewing for your Thanksgiving gathering. I hinted at this in my appearance on 1500 ESPN on Tuesday at 3:15, certainly podcastable, my appearance with Judd Zulgad. But John Morrissey of MLB Network, MLB.com, gets credit for advancing the story. The Twins have talked to Arizona about Paul Goldschmidt. No sense that talks are far along, but interesting nonetheless. I can advance the story from this standpoint. Arizona is definitely looking for pitching. How much pitching remains to be seen. Maybe you can throw in a position guy or two, but I would be surprised when Arizona deals Goldschmidt. And I do think it's more when, not if, entering the final year of his deal. I will be surprised if Arizona doesn't get back one solid pitching prospect or one solid major league pitcher. They are after arms. I hear that Zach Greinke's name has also come up. Now, he's got a ton of money left, and I'm sure Arizona would have to eat some of that money, but his name has come up. I hear that the Twins have talked to Cleveland, specifically about who. I need to dig a little bit further, but hey, Cleveland is open to dealing a lot of guys. Kluber, Carrasco, go up and down the list. The Twins have talked to teams about trading for a starting pitcher. I hear they inquired with Seattle about James Paxton before Paxton went to New York, the Yankees. So it might be more likely that the Twins acquire a good starter this winter via a trade than through free agency. They have had dialogue with the agents for the top two free agents, Dallas Keuchel, Scott Boras, and Patrick Corbin of ISE. Now, on Corbin, the word is the Twins like him a lot, but the price point right now is too high. It's hard for me to see the Twins going 5 or 6 years at $18 to $22 million a year, maybe more, on a free agent deal. I'm just telling you, I think it is more likely they trade for a good pitcher than sign one. But there has been dialogue with the agents for the top two free agent starters. In no particular order, I'll keep going. I'm actually up against it because I have some TV duties. Hey, oh, by the way, if there's a sponsor or two listening, if you want to go all in, I'd love to do this 5 days a week. I'd love to do a podcast 5 to 6 to 10 times a week. How about that? But the TV job is the main job for right now, so duty is calling. So I need to empty out the notebook as fast as possible. I am taping this before 40-man moves became official. By the time you listen to this, they may be official. The Twins adding on Monday night Nick Gordon and Lamont Wade. There was no buzz on Nick Anderson or Jake Reed as of Tuesday afternoon. I also reported on Twitter Tuesday morning that Tyler J., the Twins took him with the number 6 overall pick a few years ago. The word is the Twins are not adding Tyler J. to their 40-man roster. The Twins have talked to the agent for DJ LeMahieu. So not only are they interested in acquiring a starter this offseason, they are looking to add a couple infielders. They have not had any dialogue on these free agents, which surprises me. Cody Allen, Nelson Cruz. Now, a reminder, Scott Boras, in addition to having Keuchel, has Marwin Gonzalez. The Twins have asked about Gonzalez. The Twins met with the Levinson brothers at the GM meetings. They have Joe Kelly, Daniel Murphy, Familia, Evaldi. There are some Evaldi fans here, although if some team blows Evaldi out of the water with an offer, I'm not quite sure. That will be the Twins. Again, in no particular order, I just scribbled a bunch of stuff down. Twins Director of Scouting Sean Johnson last week took in Team USA under 18 games. Draft prep never slows down. The Twins have not talked to Kyle Gibson about an extension. I actually wonder if he is potential trade bait. Or do the Twins just enter the final year of his deal? But I can tell you for sure the Twins have not talked to Gibson or the Gibson camp about a contract extension. I texted with Mike Redmond, the former Twin, former Marlins manager. He is now the Rockies bench coach. He thinks the world of Tony Diaz, the Twins' new third base coach. All right, on the Wolves, I know there are some teams wondering about Anthony Tolliver. He is rotting away on the bench. Makes no sense to me. That's just my opinion. Anthony Tolliver should be playing. Recall that the Clippers and Mavericks were big fans of Tolliver's in the summer. That fandom has not slowed down. I'm sure there's other teams interested in Tolliver, and nothing is imminent, but he is a name to watch as we approach the trade deadline, especially if the Wolves are not going to use him. You may as well send him somewhere so he can play. I've gotten a few Bradley Beal questions. Yes, the Wolves did ask about Beal when the Wizards called in mid-September asking about Jimmy Butler. Washington said, no, we are not trading you Bradley Beal for Jimmy Butler. The Wizards were willing to do Otto Porter for Jimmy Butler. The Wolves said, no, we are not doing Butler for Porter. But the Wolves, like a lot of teams, are big fans of Bradley Beal. Do I see a logical match between the Wolves and Wizards when it comes to Bradley Beal? I don't. In the end, actually, I'm not even sure that the Wizards trade Bradley Beal. Maybe it's Porter. Maybe it's Oubre. Maybe they make some other moves. I think you build around Bradley Beal. There's no reason to trade Bradley Beal, but they are gauging value across the league. I'm just telling you, though, there's no sense that there's a match with the Wolves. The Wolves are not moving Karl Anthony Towns. I was also asked, I actually hopped into a Twitter back and forth with the Dunking with Wolves, for Wolves. I forget what their moniker is, but the Dunking guys on Twitter, they like to throw out a lot of trade scenarios. You know, it's their opinion. It generates web traffic. They throw out all sorts of different trade rumors. They just concoct different ideas, and an idea they had on Tuesday was, hey, the Wolves should call Washington and offer Andrew Wiggins for Otto Porter. So I took it a step further. I have, well, put it this way. I have somebody that's very close to the Wizards situation. I reached out to this individual. He was kind enough to text me back. The Wizards would not do Wiggins for Otto Porter. Again, this was completely made up. It was fun, Twitter fodder. This is not actually something that is being discussed, has been discussed. The Wolves are not even remotely close to shopping Andrew Wiggins, but it's fun fodder. But I'm just telling you, the Wizards would not do straight-up Porter for Wiggins, but they don't necessarily dislike Wiggins. I mean, heck, if the Wolves want to do Wiggins and Okogie, Wiggins and a future first, now the Wolves, again, are not doing that, but there could be a potential match. But I'm telling you, straight up, the Wizards would not do Otto Porter for Andrew Wiggins. Brian Pauga, Wolves personnel guy, I love this. He's got the Maui trip, the Maui Invitational. Hey, somebody has to suck it up and go to Maui to scout Duke, Zion Williamson, crying for Zion, not trying for Zion, R.J. Barrett, Cam Reddish. There's other NBA prospects there as well. Auburn's got some guys, Gonzaga. It's a good collection of teams at the Maui Invitational. So Brian Pauga of the Wolves is in Maui right now scouting. I know the Wolves have a scout in Vancouver watching the Gophers and company at the Vancouver Showcase. The Wolves also had a scout, Tim Buckley, at the Charleston Classic over the weekend with Purdue, Virginia Tech, and some other teams. The Wolves have not inquired on Joakim Noah, who appears to be Memphis-bound. Kevin Garnett, of course, was at Friday's game. I was asked a few times, hey, did KG and Glenn Taylor catch up at all? The answer is no. KG bailed quickly after the game on Friday. He caught up briefly with Gary Trent Sr. Gary Trent Sr. was there for his son, Gary Trent Jr., the former Apple Valley High School star. He got in against the Wolves, and he scored a few points in his adopted hometown. All right, on the Vikings front, the Vikings scouted these college games last weekend: Gophers Northwestern, Fresno San Diego State, Iowa Illinois, and Tulane Houston. On the injury front, I think it's more likely than not that David Morgan unfortunately misses another game. It's fluid. Let's see how practice goes Wednesday and Thursday. But when he initially hurt his knee in the Detroit game, I was told it might be a few weeks. This is not a season-ending injury. David Morgan will be back, but don't be surprised if he doesn't play against the Packers. Anthony Barr, heck, he told some people he thought he'd be back for the Bears game. I thought he would be back for the Bears game. He told me in the locker room on Monday he will be back after missing 3 games with that hamstring injury for the Packers game. Anthony Miller scored that touchdown for the Bears against the Vikings on Sunday Night Football. He visited the Vikings pre-draft back in April. The Vikings had a healthy pre-draft opinion of Anthony Miller. I was watching Monday Night Football. Heck, who wasn't? Rams, Chiefs. What a game. The Rams have a defensive player, a linebacker, Samson Ebukham. Ebukham. I don't want to mispronounce his last name anyway. He scored 2 touchdowns for the Rams. He visited the Vikings pre-draft 1 year ago, before the 2017 draft. What else do I have written down? I connected with Jalen Suggs. He's the starting quarterback for SMB. That's a co-op with Blake, Minnehaha Academy, and St. Paul Academy. They were practicing at the Gophers facility on Monday. How about that? Practicing at the Gophers facility. PJ Fleck even took some time to address SMB. Hey, why not? He's offered 3 SMB players, Craig McDonald, Caden Johnson, and Jalen Suggs. I had a chance to catch up with Jalen. He speaks the world of PJ. He says they talk and text all the time. He loves PJ Fleck. Now, I still think Jalen Suggs will play basketball, not football at the collegiate level, but I'm just telling you, Jalen Suggs thinks the world of Fleck. So does Caden Johnson. Johnson is a big fan of Flex. Suggs, by the way, took an unofficial visit over the weekend to Alabama. Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Zeke Nnaji of Hopkins, one of the 30 best players nationally in the class of 2019, will announce his collegiate choice on Friday. Unfortunately for Gophers fans, he eliminated the Gophers a while back. He is down to Baylor, Purdue, UCLA, Arizona, and Kansas. He did visit North Carolina over the weekend, but North Carolina offered too late. I'm told his pick on Friday will not be North Carolina. I also will say this. I'm not going to ruin the young man's announcement, but it is awfully hard to beat the Blue Bloods. And I would say we can debate who's a blue blood, who's not a blue blood. I would say he's got, of his final 5, 3 blue blood offers. So I'll let you do the math. Who's still alive, who's not alive. But all the best to Zeke Nnaji as he makes his college announcement on Friday at the Lindbergh Center at noon. I was asked if Paige Beckers of Hopkins, star junior, she can name the college that she'll play for. I was asked if she was at the Gophers opener, the sellout crowd, the victory over New Hampshire. She was not, but she's been on campus a few times. She has developed a good relationship with Lindsay Whalen. Her dad was there. It is still going to be very, 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 very tough for the Gophers to land Paige Beckers, but at least she's giving them something to think about. I can tell you this much. If Marlene Stallings was still the coach, and hey, Marlene won. She got a big raise to go to Texas Tech. All the best to Marlene. Paige Beckers was not coming to play for Marlene Stallings. The Gophers would not be on Paige's radar if Marlene was still here. So Lindsay Whalen puts the Gophers on Paige's radar. Kendall Lindemann is transferring from the Gophers softball team. I hear, put it this way, it is really hard to be the coach that replaces the coach, emphasis on the coach, Jessica Allister, who left for a better job a year ago at Stanford. I hear this past year was a big-time transition for many of the girls. There may be even more fallout. They've lost a couple behind-the-scenes people. I just hear it's an interesting dynamic right now with the Gophers softball team. Irv Cross, legendary broadcaster, former McAllister AD. Love Irv. What a great man. 80 years old. He did a story with us at Channel 5. He is donating his brain for research. Unfortunately, he's dealing with some dementia issues. He is not doing great health-wise, but hopefully Irv is with us for many, many more years. Just a great, great NFL ambassador, broadcaster, player, all that good stuff back in the day. For a lot of you young people listening, you have no idea who Irv Cross is. Google Irv Cross. Learn about Irv Cross. It is well worth your time. All right, I had a few other things jotted down, but I need to call it a podcast. Have a great Thanksgiving, everyone. Support MyBookie, mybookie.com, and Fair State Brewing Cooperative, Fair State Brewing, Mirror Universe. They help keep the podcast going. That does it for Scoop Podcast episode 186.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening to the show. TCL launched a new lineup of award-winning 4K Roku TVs to deliver the best sports, movies, TV shows, and thousands of streaming channels. TCL's personalized home screen makes it easy to customize your TCL to fit the way you watch. Binge watch what you want, when you want. TCL delivers excellent picture quality, sleek design, and stunning resolution at an affordable price. TCL, America's fastest-growing TV brand, is available at major retailers everywhere. Learn more at TCLUSA.com.
Saudi statement. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. President Trump says the U.S. will not punish Saudi Arabia's crown prince at this time or cut arms sales to Saudi Arabia for the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. This is Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
The United States will continue to have a relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They're important partner of ours. We will do that with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, its people. That is the commitment that the president made today. It's that straightforward.
Former Michigan State University President Luana Simon has been charged with lying to police, conducting an investigation of Larry Nassar's sexual abuse. Simon stepped down earlier this year over the scandal. At the White House today, 2 big turkeys, peas and carrots, won't be on a dinner table on Thanksgiving thanks to President Trump.
Even though peas and carrots have received a presidential pardon, I have warned them that House Democrats are likely to issue them both subpoenas.
I'm Ed Donahue.